Well, tonight we have Brock Van Way, aka BV Dub. And so I want to welcome you to the studio. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Of course. So let's familiarize people with who you are and how long you've been producing and what you've been up to in the past sort of few years.
Last few years, been producing quite a bit. Before that, I never produced. I was a DJ here in the Bay Area since 1991. But I didn't start producing until late 2006, so just over 3 years now.
Okay, so what was the impetus to go from producing from DJing to producing?
Well, actually, I completely quit DJing and moved out of the country for a few years. I completely removed myself from music. And after I came back, it was actually a friend of mine who'd been pushing me for a long time, and he finally was like, dude, take an hour. I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to teach you how to put it together a little bit. And I was like, all right. And, I'd always not wanted to make my own music because I thought it would kind of rob the magic out of it if I knew how it was made, and I would get too clinical and OCD about it. But really the opposite has been true. I've kind of developed a new love for it on a lot of levels. So that was kind of it. I started making my own tracks, and strangely enough, the first 6 tracks I ever made all became my first album on Night Drive. So
cool.
All happened kind of quick.
Awesome. So so I understand you're not DJing anymore, and
that's true.
So kind of what happened there?
Without talking too much smack about anybody, I just, I DJ'd for a long time here, and by the time I stopped in about late 2001, I just become really not happy with how things have become here. I think DJing really became a thing that people did to try to think they were cool or get chicks, or
okay.
There was just a little too much of that for me. It wasn't really about the music anymore and about the art. Everyone just wanted to be a DJ for the sake of being a DJ. They didn't really have any other... There was still people doing it for the right reasons, but things had just changed a lot since when I started going out in 1990. Too much for me. I couldn't really handle it anymore. So,
right. We brought you in because you currently have a new album out, and previously you've done more sort of dub techno releases. I see you wincing there, but that's the sort of general accepted terminology for it.
I understand.
But you've released on some very well respected labels like Styrax and Millions of Moments and Meanwhile and Small Fish, and then you currently have an ambient album out on Echo Space. So you want to tell us a little bit about sort of your productions?
Well, I think the ambient, as far as it going into ambient's not too big of a stretch because all my tracks start from ambient. It's kind of my first love, so it's not a big surprise to have it kind of transition there. It's been kind of a natural transition, luckily one that people have accepted. The whole thing, I didn't really think anybody would want to listen to any of my tracks, to be honest, because when I DJ'd, everyone said what I played was too sad and too whatever. Nobody ever liked it, so I thought people would think the same thing about my music. Strangely enough, some people liked it. Styrax, they heard it on my MySpace page and picked up some tracks, and then from there it just kind of kept going. I was just really lucky to meet some good people, have some good people come along and heard my music. And all I do is just make what I've been making, and luckily people like it.
Yeah, cool. It's it definitely it's good that people have connected. So the Echo Space release, Steve Hitchell, basically, I kind of understand you guys kind of connected, and that's how it came to being released on Echo Space, the album.
Yeah, it was really cool. One day I got an email from him. I'd never met him. Of course, I knew who he was. I'd actually known Rod, albeit through email, for about 10 years. But I never had met Steve. And one day I got an email from him. He said he had bought a bunch of my records.
Oh, cool.
I thought that was really cool because you don't really expect a guy like that to contact you and tell you about your records.
Yeah, it's probably quite gratifying.
Yeah, it was really gratifying. And he was he said he really felt a lot of the stuff that I had done and just wanted to kind of connect. He felt like we kind of had a connection through his, how he felt my music. And we started kind of talking back and forth through email, kind of became email friends. And one day I just kind of broached the subject, what would you think about listening to some stuff? He said he was down for it, but it had to be something made completely from scratch for that. It couldn't just be tracks that were laying around or something like that. It had to be something completely from the heart, from scratch for that. So I said, okay, I'll try. And I sat down and made the whole album from start to finish. The tracks are in the order they were made, so it's completely in order.
Cool.
I was shocked. He loved it.
And Steve's actually also done an accompanying remix CD, a whole CD for which goes with your album. So, which is actually really nice. Which what we're hearing right now in the background.
Yeah, that was a huge. I mean, I thought it was just going to be that. Then he proposed that, which I thought was really amazing because I'm a huge fan of his music, and I think it was a kind of a great opportunity for him too because he was able to kind of showcase. He's a really talented musician, not just a quote unquote techno guy. So it was kind of a chance for him to showcase that a lot more. I think he did a lot of live instrumentation and really beautiful percussion and instrumentation work. That was a big honor. I mean, I think his CD is amazing. I think it's like a really nice accompaniment. So.
Yeah, definitely. So the new album is White Clouds Drift On and On. It's on Echo Space, and
it's out now.
Yeah, it's out now.
Check. It's at Amoeba. Go check it out.
Is it at Amoeba?
It is at Amoeba, yeah.
So I'm curious, you were talking about how ambient music is kind of your first love. Can you tell us, say, your favorite top 5 ambient artists kind of influenced you to make music?
Number one, hands down, Steve Roach.
Uh-huh.
That's, to me, you don't like ambient if you don't like Steve Roach.
Yeah.
That's just me, but...
Definitely, I can agree with that.
Steve Roach for sure. A lot of stuff on Hypnos from the mid-late 90s. Gas, of course, who's not influenced by Gas. A lot of classical, which, I mean, I guess you'd call ambient because I have a lot of classical training when I was a kid.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I played violin for 10 years and piano for 8 years. I played in some local symphonies in Hayward and Livermore and stuff like that. So the strange thing is I actually never really liked listening to classical music. I just like playing it. But I think a lot of that seeped in because I think there's a lot of classical element to my music. But they're kind of the masters of ambient, I guess that's only 4.
It's all right.
4 is okay.
That works.
Cool. So you also have your own label called Quietus, and we were talking a little bit about that earlier, and it's actually pretty interesting what you're doing. And do you want to sort of just tell us about your label?
Yeah, it's I mean, I started myself. I make them all myself. It's very limited, only 300 copies each. One of them was 500 because the other 200 the profits all went to charity. But basically, it was really born from my friend Remote, Mike, out in London. He was telling me one day that a label had called one of his releases, I'm not going to say which release and which label, too quote-unquote self-indulgent. And I just don't really understand that because music, that's what music is. It's whatever you want it to be. It's not what other people want it to be. So I was like, you know what? I want to make a label or have a label that me and him and other friends of mine could just put out whatever we love the most and don't have to think about, is someone going to want to buy it? Is it going to sell? Are people not going to want it because of this? Are they going to tell you to change it or chop the length down or whatever? Quietus means not only quiet, but it also means death, which sounds gloomy, but really the reason I chose that name is because what I told anyone who wants to submit tracks for the label and even for myself is like, I want it to be the tracks that if you died tomorrow, that's what you want to be remembered by. Those are the tracks. I don't want it to be any random stuff. I want those to be it.
Okay. So,
it's very limited. I do them all myself. All the pictures are taken by myself personally, and they're taken with the release in the headphones. So they're not like pictures that are laying around. I put the release in the headphones, go out.
And each cover is actually like a print. It's not actually a copy. It's actual
it's an actual
photographic print.
Yeah, it's an actual Kodak print of the picture.
Earlier, the album comes as 1 disc originals and 1 disc reinterpretations by Steve Henschel of Echo Space. Let me turn that down a little bit so we can hear. How do you think that his reinterpretations came out that differentiate them from your originals?
I think they capture a lot of it because I think in a way I would say most of my music harks back to the 90s in a way because that's my biggest influence. And I think his took it even more overtly in that direction, but not sounding dated, but just being very kind of that 90s electronica kind of vibe to it. So I think he took it in a little more of a direction. I think actually I guess I could put it in the way that I think his took it more in the direction of where my influence actually probably comes from, whereas mine's more the end result, and he kind of summed it all up.
Gotcha.
I didn't really expect it to come out. I thought like most people, I thought it was going to come out very like Echo Space, quote unquote, and more dark and dubby. I hate that word, but I'll say it for lack of a better. You know, like I think most people thought it would, and it was so different. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the one thing that stands out is it's not really drenched in effects, and it doesn't seem to have that kind of I don't know what's the quality I'm looking for. Anyway, but you know, the drenched in effects thing is kind of tons of echo and very spacious. Well, which this is as well, but.
Yeah, but he took it in a very much more like he played all the live instruments and did a lot of live things on it. I think it shows.
Definitely, definitely.
So, what's coming up for you, like in the coming year?
Quite a bit of stuff. I have a full-length ambient album coming out on Quietus in a few months. I have a full-length album coming out on Somnia, which is a label that used to be out of Oregon, I believe. Now they're out of Hawaii. It's a domestic label. That's coming out, I think, next month. And they do, it's 777 copies. They do it all by hand. So I really like that. I have a full-length ambient album coming on Distant Noise, which is an ambient shoegaze label in England. I just finished an album for Home Normal, which is a new ambient label also in England. I just finished that a couple days ago. That'll be out early next year. Then I have 2 other albums that are still... Yeah,
that's a lot of albums.
I know. That I'm still they're kind of debating exactly what's going to happen with them yet. And I also just finished a huge remix of Celestian for Remote. It's 40 plus minutes.
Wow.
And that'll be out. Yeah. Well, his original is 40 plus minutes.
Okay.
So I matched it, not to be outdone. So that'll be coming out later this year, I think.
Cool.
So,
well, damn.
That's a lot of music.
I know. Well, I'm trying to get it all in before everybody decides they hate me and they don't want to listen to it.
Come on. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, we talked about your influences earlier, and you mentioned all these labels. I was kind of wondering if you could tell us what your kind of current favorite ambient labels and artists are.
I do listen to some new stuff. I still really do listen to a lot of old stuff. I listen to Thomas Koner every night. I can't go a single night without listening to a Thomas Koner album. So, I mean, that guy's the man.
Right on.
A lot of Steve Roach, things like that. I mean, I listen to a lot of older stuff, but some newer stuff. I like Last Days a lot. I listen to a lot of his stuff. The new Pan American I listen to like crazy. I've listened to it probably hundreds of times. Tim Hecker, a lot of stuff like that. More kind of drone bass, a little more guitar bass, drone bass stuff.
Are you a fan of Stars of the Lid?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Exuviae, Luvium, a lot of different kind of ambient stuff. That's what I listen to mostly. If I listen to stuff with beats, it's generally going to be deep house from like the early 90s because that's what I like the most.
Right on.
And a lot of drum and bass. I listen to tons of drum and bass. So
who knew? Who would have thought that?
I know. People don't really think that. I probably actually listen to drum and bass more throughout the day than any other kind of music.
Okay.
I love it. I've loved it for 15 years. So.
Yeah, right on.
Oh.
Sweet. Well, unless Cez has anything else, I want to thank you for coming by.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Definitely.
man.
Love the music.
Thank you very much.
And the album is called, if I can read it.
It's a little blurry.
Go ahead and tell me what it is. White Clouds
Drift On and On.
And it's in stores now. Go check it out. I know I'm going to check it out tomorrow afternoon when I get horizontal on my couch.
It's a good weekend afternoon horizontal.
I am actually excited about it now because it's been in my stack for a while. I'm going to jump on it. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's a great album. I definitely highly recommend it. So, yeah.
It gets the Friday Night Session seal of approval, people. What
Thank
more
you
do
very
you
much.
need? Yeah, thanks for coming by. And
Thank you guys.
We'll be
Thanks
sure
very
to
much.
keep playing your tunes, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Excellent.
Maybe
I hope
after
so.
all these albums come out and we've had a chance to process them, we'll have you back.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Thanks, dude.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Lots more music to come.